One sunny Sunday in Chicago, several former classmates gathered for lunch, having attended their high school reunion the night before. They wanted to hear more about what was happening in each other's lives. After a good deal of kidding and a good meal, they settled into an interesting conversation. Angela, who had been one of the most popular people in the class, said, "Life sure turned out differently than I thought it would when we were in school. A lot has changed. Instantly has Nathan enjoyed the knew he had gone into his family's business, which had operated pretty much the same and had been a part of a local community for as long as they could remember. So they were surprised when he seemed concerned. He asked, "But have you noticed how we don't want to change when things change?" Carlos said, "I guess we resist changing because we're afraid of change." Carlos, you were a captain of the football team. Jessica said, "I never thought I'd hear you say anything about being afraid." They all laughed as they realized that although they had gone off in different directions, from working at home to managing companies, they were experiencing similar feelings. Everyone was trying to cope with the unexpected changes that were happening to them in recent years, and most admitted that they did not know a good way to handle them. Then Michael said, "I used to be afraid of change. When a big change came along in our business, we didn't know what to do, so we didn't do anything differently and we almost lost it. That is," he continued, "until I heard a funny little story that changed everything." "How so?" Nathan asked. "Well, the story altered the way I looked at change, and after that things quickly improved for me at work and in my life. Then I passed the story on to some people in our company, and they passed it on to others, and soon our business did much better because we all adapted to change better, and like me, many people said helped them in their personal lives." "What's the story?" Angela asked. "It's called Who Moved My Cheese?" The group laughed. "I think I like it already," Carla said. "Would you tell us the story?" "Sure," Michael replied. "I'd be happy to. It doesn't take long." And so he began the story. Once, long ago, in a land far away, there lived four little characters who ran through a maze looking for cheese to no reason and make them happy. Two were mice named Sniff and two were little people beings who were as small as mice but who looked and acted a lot like people today. Their names were Hem and Haw. Due to their small size, it would be easy not to notice what the four of them were doing. But if you looked closely enough, you could discover the most amazing things. Every day, the mice and the little people spent time in the maze looking for their own special cheese. The mice sniff and scurry, possessing only simple rotten brains, but good instincts, searched for the hard, nibbling cheese they liked, as mice often do. The two people Ham and Haw used their brains, filled with many beliefs, to search for a very different kind of cheese with a capital C, which they believed would make them feel happy and successful. As different as the mice and the little people were, they shared something in common every morning. They each put on their jogging suits and running shoes, left their little homes, and raced out into the maze looking for their favorite cheese. The maze was a labyrinth of corridors and chambers, some containing delicious cheese, but there were also dark corners and blind alleys leading nowhere. It was an easy place for anyone to get lost. However, the two little people, Ham and How, used a different method that relied on their ability to think and learn from their past experience. Also, they would sometimes get confused by their beliefs and emotions. Eventually, in their own way, they all discovered what they were looking for. They each found their own kind of cheese. One day, at the end of one of the corridors in Cheese Station C, every morning after that, the mice and the little people dressed in their running gear and headed over to Cheese Station C. It wasn't long before they each established their own routine. Sniff and Scurry continued to wake early every day and race through the maze, always following the same route. When they arrived at their destination, the mice took off their running shoes, tied them together, and hung them around their necks so they could get to them quickly. Whenever they needed them again, then they enjoyed the cheese. In the beginning, Ham and How also raced toward Cheese Station C every morning to enjoy the tasty new marvels that awaited them. But after a while, a different routine set in for the little people. Ham and How awake each day a little later, dressed a little slower, and walked to Cheese Station C. After all, they knew where the cheese was now and how to get there. They had no idea where the cheese came from or who put the there, they just assumed it would be there. As soon as him and How arrived at Cheese Station C each morning, they settled and made themselves at home. They hung up their jogging shoes and out on their slippers. They were becoming very comfortable now that they had found the cheese. This is great, Ham said. There's enough cheese here to last us forever. The little people felt happy and successful, and so they were secure. It wasn't long before Ham and How rejected the cheese they found at Cheese Station C as their cheese. It was such a large store of cheese that they eventually moved their homes to be closer to it and build a social life around it. To make themselves feel more at home, Ham and How decorated the walls with saying and even pictures of cheese around them which made them smile. One read, having cheese makes you happy. Sometimes Ham and How would take their friends by in their pile of cheese at Cheese Station C and point to it with pride, saying, pretty nice cheese, huh? Sometimes they shared it with their friends, and sometimes they didn't. We deserve this cheese, Ham said. We certainly had to work long and hard enough to find it. He picked up a nice fresh piece and ate it. Afterwards he fell asleep, and he often did. Every night the little people would waddle home full of cheese, and every morning they would confidently return for more. This went on for quite some time. After a while, Ham's and How's confidence grew into arrogance. Soon they became so comfortable they didn't even notice what was happening. As time went on, Sniff and Scurry continued their routine. They arrived early each morning and sniffed and scratching and scurried around Cheese Station C, inspecting the area to see if there had been any changes from the day before. Then they would sit down to nibble on the cheese. One morning they arrived at Cheese Station C and discovered there was no cheese. They weren't surprised, since Sniff and Scurry had noticed the supply of cheese had been getting smaller every day. They were prepared for the inevitable and knew instinctively what to do. They looked at each other, removed the running shoes they had tied together and hung competently around their necks, put them on their feet, and laced up. The mice did not overnicely think, and they were not burdened with many complex beliefs. To the mice, the problem and answer were both simple. The situation at Cheese Station C had changed, so Sniff and Scurry decided to change. They both looked out into the maze. Then Sniff lifted his nose, sniffed, and nodded to Scurry, who took over running through the maze while Sniff followed as fast as he could.